Hello again. So, last time I did my behind the scenes, we had these two guys, and I mentioned I did them with washes. And so, a wash is basically you're putting a very thin layer of paint over another one so it's somewhat transparent. It can show through. They actually sell bottles of washes, or you can make your own, just put some paint and mix a lot of water with it. You can control the thickness of that. So, we're going to show how we do this. So, these guys can go. So one use. This guy did with the dry brush technique. And one thing, if you have a lot of this where you got the raised surfaces and the stuff lower in, sometimes it's hard to get the paint in the lower parts. It's these are all water soluble paints. They will run as they dry, so you might have to go over it several times. So sometimes just doing a wash as your base just to get into the cracks. Yeah, and as part of your base coat, you do the wash to get it into the cracks. Might have to touch it up a little after that, and then you can do the rest of your dry brush. Other things you use washes for. So, cloth. This guy's cloak. See, sometimes you don't want, especially if you have large swaths of cloth like his apron or his cloak, you don't want it all to look just one color. So I'll do a wash over it so it looks a little two-toned, or it looks like it faded a little. So I did a dark wash on this guy. His apron, I did a little gray wash over it just so it looks a little dirty. Don't really know if you can tell on the video here. Light's not as good as it could be. Other things, wings. I'll usually do a dark wash on the outside and then a light wash underneath. So just paint the wing normal and do a wash to make it, the bottom bird's wings are lighter than usual. And sometimes the top is darker. So we'll do a little dark wash on top, light wash on bottom. I've been doing some barrels recently, and I wanted to do 3 tones of paint. So I wanted the base to be one tone, then the caps to be another tone, then the sides to be another. And yes, I had a nice reddish brown for the base, or for the holder. But my rest of mine were almost the same shade. So I just did them all a light brown, and then I did a black wash over them, darkened the outside. And again, it makes it look a little two-toned too, so it's not just solid brown, it's brown with various shades. I will be finishing these, and you'll see them later probably. And do not have a good example, but sometimes like doing my skeletons. Here's an old skeleton. Didn't do it on this guy, but like if I want his, he's a skeleton, so he's old. His weapons are also old. So I will paint him normal, and sometimes I will put a brownish red wash over the weapons and let them run just so it looks rusty. And I didn't do it on this guy, and I don't have an example of one which I did do it on. That's something I'll do. So, how does this work? Clear some space here. So skeletons. I could do them pure white if I wanted to, or I could do a wash on them. So I made these guys yellowish brown, did a base coat on them with the yellowish brown. So this guy, because he's got the cloak, I did the black in the background. The wash might run onto that, and so I might have to touch it up. I'll probably end up doing his legs just solid white a little bit, just to touch those up after I redo the black. But all you do, you get your palette, whatever you're using for your palette, you take the color paint you want, which pure white. Put a bit of that on there. Then you get your water, and you mix some water with it. And so, hard to see here, but it is thinning out a little. Then you just take your guy, take your wash, and you start going over them. And again, you can control the thickness of your wash by just how thick you make the water, or how much water you add, I should say. If it is too thick, you can just dip your brush in water and go over the guy again a little more. Again, these are all water soluble paints, so you got to be a little careful about accidentally washing away your undercoat or your base coat. And also, like I said, the wash is liquid, so it's going to run a little as it dries. So you might have to go back and touch up your wash again. And again, it's going to run into other places, so you might have to go back and do more touch-up jobs, like his eyes and his mouth. I might have to do a touch-up job as the wash runs into those. And again, the base coat, like I said, I mixed my base coat, so if that went bad, I had to do it over again. But beyond that, the base coat took very little time to put on. The wash took very little time. There he is. He's mostly white. He's got some yellowish spots or brownish yellow spots showing through because the bone's a little aged. Touch up a few bits here. And all I would have to do now is, if he was holding anything, weapons or anything, I'd have to go back and do the details on those. But overall, doing him, with the exception of waiting for the eyes and mouth to dry so that I could have those a slightly different color. 5 to 10 minutes. That's including drying time because these paints do dry somewhat fast. Generally, I'll let the base paint, the base layer of paint dry a little longer just so I'm not accidentally got to go through. And so again, when he dries, it might run a little bit, so not a problem. I'll do this guy later because I'm basically same thing for him. Base coat, green. Now I've done these ghosts in the past. I've done them blue with a whitewash on them. I'm going to try to do this guy sort of Ghostbuster style. So I made him green, and I'm going to try silver wash. And they're the metallic paints that Reaper makes. I've never used them as a wash before, so I don't know how this is going to end up. This is somewhat experimental here. So silver paint, add some water, just start going over him. And the idea, I want him to be somewhat silvery, but I do want some of the green to show through. So like I said, try to get the Slimer effect from Ghostbusters. And light's not as good as it should be here. Sort of works. Might have to go over it a few times. Again, want to be careful on the front because I did paint his eyes and his mouth beforehand. And for all of these, the little Bonesylvania minis that Reaper makes, most of them do use a wash if you do. Frankenstein or Baby Frankenstein did a layer of green because everyone thinks he's green, although he shouldn't really be. Then did a flesh tone wash over it, and it came out this grayish color, which actually looks better than the green most people think he should be. I got a little Nosferatu character, did him in gray base coat, and I'm going to do a pale skin color over that. Still. Yeah, the silver's sort of working out. I'll probably have to touch him up a bit before I showcase him in the next behind the scenes video. And yet, if the wash is too thick, then you can just put some regular silver or regular color over it, and since you're putting it on water, it's going to run a little on its own too. Here we go. Yeah, again, it runs as you do it, so you might have to go over a few spots a couple times. Probably have to do them a little more again, but there he is. So yeah, I sort of want him a little less green than he is, so I'm probably going to have to go over him a second time maybe. Sometimes you do multiple layers of wash, just let one dry and do the other one. And I also got this. This guy was originally white. I painted him over uh, gray because I went base coat on him. And I'm going to try a coral color. I thought I had coral paint. I didn't. So I'm going to mix some. Just put a little flesh tone and a little orange and hope it comes out coral colored. If not, I can always go over them with a different color. And mix that. And not as coral as I would have liked. Sort of more of an orangish. But again, it's going to be a wash over gray, so it's not going to be a big problem. Yeah, this one you notice I didn't add the water on the palette. I just started putting it directly on the figure, and then I'm putting a little water over that. Multiple ways to do washes. And all his his little feet and his all the other stuff I will go back over, do my more detailed thing. So I can cover those with the wash, but that's not going to be their final color. So I want to make sure those are dry before I go back and do the details on those. The base, of course, since we're doing a wash and it does run sometimes, the base is going to have to be touched up too, because it's not unusual to get a pool of stuff around there. If you do have it too watery, you can just dab it with a paper cloth. You got to be careful that, or paper towel. Want to be careful though that you don't smudge it and get your base coat off. Alternately, you can just dry out your paintbrush and dab it with that, and use your paintbrush as a little miniature mop. So he's coming out, not quite the orangish color he was, not quite the gray of the underneath. So he looks like something that you might dig up in your garden or something from underground, which is what I was intending for. So that is it, basically. Anything else you can do with washes? I can't think of off the top of my head, although I'm sure there probably are things. I'm teaching what I know. I'm sure people who have painted longer than me or have gone to actual classes or stuff like that could probably give you more uses for washes than I have mentioned. These are just some. That's all. Have a nice day.